Hi guys, Kristin here. I am a minute late. Sorry about that. As promised, this is my first scheduled live stream where last week, or I guess over the weekend, I made a video to announce to you guys what days and what times in July I'll be doing live streams so that you can put those in your calendar and then hopefully plan to attend in person. And the reason you'd want to do that is you can ask me questions in real time. And as I'm answering your questions and more questions come up, you can just start typing those in the chat box. And then I can go really deep into the things that you're struggling most with while you're still living with really severe chronic fatigue. The reason I like to do it this way is because I can sit here and I can, come up with things that were important to me while I was healing. And a lot of that might be helpful to you, but I think the most helpful thing is to be able to give you guys my perspective on exactly where you're at today so that it helps you with your current step in your healing journey. I'm just way better at answering questions than I am coming up with topics all the time myself. So this makes it a little bit easier for me if you guys ask me questions. And I also really love getting to interact in real time. I find that I don't know. It seems like we go deeper when we do it that way. And I think deeper is better. All right. I'm going to give it a few minutes to see if we get anybody on. I did come prepped with one question from the video comments I'm going to talk about. But first, a little update. As I've mentioned in my past videos, this summer has been so full. Gosh. Okay. I think that's better. This summer has been really full for me in a really, really wonderful way. For the past 5 weekends, I have been traveling to different parts of the country on little trips and vacations and even to a wedding. And because I've been traveling so much, I haven't been home as much. I've been eating out a lot. And, I'm pretty great about wanting to eat healthy when I'm traveling and still finding the healthiest options out there when I'm on the road. But I find that I don't get anywhere near enough vegetables, or especially anywhere near enough fresh fruit and vegetables when I'm traveling. So now that I'm home for a while, I'm really enjoying getting to do things like, pick up a really good organic juice with lots of beets and ginger in it. Because even now that I'm healed, that's the kind of thing that leaves me feeling best and healthiest. All right. I'm going to go ahead and launch into the question I had from the video comments. So actually, interestingly enough, a couple different people posted about this within a day or two of one another, which is why I think it's a great topic to cover today. So they were talking about how they tend to hyper-focus on their symptoms sometimes and how that feels like a problem, and what to do about it when you find yourself hyper-focusing on your symptoms. So my perspective on this is first to kind of define what it is we're talking about, because of course there is some level of focus on your symptoms that is healthy. We need to be able to tap into what's happening in our body regularly and monitor ourselves so that we can pay attention to how we're feeling, so we can make sure we're not using too much energy on any given day, and so we can just generally track our progress over time. So a little bit of focus and attention on our symptoms is healthy and necessary. When we talk about hyper-focusing on your symptoms, it's when looking at your symptoms becomes overwhelming and consumes a lot of your attention and energy. It's especially bad when all of that hyper-focus creates negative emotions in us, when we become depressed about our symptoms, when we start to despair about them, when we start to think, oh my God, I'm worse than I was yesterday. What if I keep getting worse tomorrow and the day after? Or, oh my gosh, it's been this bad for years and never going to get better, right? Hyper focusing on our symptoms leads to those thought spirals that take us downwards. And those negative thought spirals are unhealthy because we're spending energy, our precious energy, on what if scenarios that aren't real. And we're spending all that emotional energy on bringing ourselves down. Now, those are valid thoughts and feelings. I'm not saying that they should necessarily be avoided. What I'm saying is that when you find yourself falling into one of those downward spirals because you've been hyper focusing on your symptoms so much, is to mentally take a step back and a step out of that spiral. And I know that's easier said than done, trust me. It sounds simple when I say it. Oh, hi, Lisa. Researching all day on your diagnosis. Do you have a new diagnosis? I know you've had a number of them over the years. Yeah, I know it sounds simple to just step out of your downward thought spiral, but if it were that easy, then we wouldn't have a problem, right? It's like pretty much everything I talk about on here, it's a habit. It requires practice to step out of those downward thought spirals when we find ourselves in them. The first step in stepping out of that, though, is seeing our thought spirals when they're happening. And then even if it doesn't feel like it, acknowledging that we can choose to step out of it. Even if you don't know how to step out of it, the second step is to acknowledge that you can. It is possible to step out. And over time, as you continue to see these things for what they are, and you learn how to step out of them, it's going to become easier with time and faster. And you won't go anywhere near as far down that spiral over time. And you'll get out of it saving more of your energy. Really, the thought spirals are you spending your energy in ways that don't help you heal. Okay, we want to minimize those. Stepping out of those thought spirals is going to save more of that energy so you can choose where to put it. So you can choose to put it into researching like Lisa has been. Or you can choose to put it into a big push day, like say you have a big wedding coming up, you really want to go to that. Maybe that's a better place to invest a little bit more energy. Right? When you take yourself out of that thought spiral, you have energy left over that's not getting drained by the thought spiral, and you get to choose what to do with it. All right? We're trying to like hoard those spoons. We're trying to hang on to as many of those spoons as we can every single day, okay? And those negative emotions and thoughts, by definition, are robbing you of energy, and they're taking away your precious, precious spoons. All right? And the healing mindset is learning about how to hang on to as many of those spoons as possible by tackling the things that you have control over. And when you're living with this really severe chronic fatigue, I know some days it can feel like there's nothing you have control over. I know it can feel like you've lost control of everything in life. For me, it was I lost the ability to have a job, to make my own money. I lost the ability to be the girlfriend I wanted to be. I lost the ability to work out and be a CrossFitter like I loved doing. I lost the ability to pursue my dreams. I think for me, some of the most heartbreaking stories I read are about mothers who feel like they're losing time and opportunity with their kids. They're losing the ability to be the mother that they want to be, or dads who are losing the ability to be the father or husband that they want to be, right? And those things are real and valid losses that have a lot of pain and grief with them, okay? And those are things that are somewhat out of our control while we're still living with really severe symptoms. And I talk in other videos about how to cope with that grief and what to do with it. So when I say the healing mindset, is about tackling the things that we do have control over. It's about showing you that you do have a little more control over your day-to-day life than you might realize. And that control is over how you respond to things. Okay? It's like stepping out of the negative thought spiral. It's about learning how to manage your mindset so that you're saving more spoons, you're saving more energy every single day on your healing journey, so that you can have that energy left over and choose how to spend it. The healing mindset is also going to help shape how you think about your illness and how you approach your healing journey. It's going to help you make better decisions on your health journey. It's going to help give you clarity about what to try next. It gives you clarity on who to work with, what doctors to choose, what practitioners to bring onto your team. All right. Yeah, Lisa says that the stress and the worry can make her symptoms worse. And that's exactly the point I've been trying to make, is that there's always a certain amount of grief and pain and hurt that we're going to feel when we've lost so much. However, there's always a little bit of stress and worry that we do have control over, that we can remove from our day-to-day lives, okay? We can learn how to chip away at that bit by bit, to decrease our stress, to decrease the things that we're worrying about, to stop wasting energy, okay? To plug up those energy leaks is another way I've put it before. Or to, excuse me. Yes, it's about giving you that little bit of extra control over your day-to-day life. Because when you start taking those steps and you start saving that little bit of energy every day, it becomes a compound effect. It's like compound interest. It's just like a penny today and maybe like 1.1 pennies tomorrow and 1.2 pennies the day after, okay? It accrues very slowly, but you're making forward momentum. And as you continue doing this for days and weeks and months, and if necessary, years, the compound interest really starts to pay off for you over time. It's like those hockey stick curves where it's just kind of like barely making any progress, barely going up, hardly going up. And then you reach a point where everything just kind of starts to work. But you've got to be working on that forward momentum every day. Okay? Doesn't mean you have to have every day has to be perfect. Does not mean that, but you have to be making that effort. And you have to be committed to moving forward in that way to see those gains and that progress. All right? And that's what I'm here to share with you guys, is what those things are that you do have a little more control over, and how to have more clarity in the decisions you make around your health and your healing team. Okay? All right, we got a couple people on. Hi, guys. Any questions? I'm taking questions. I am here to help you with what you're struggling with most. It could be anything. It could be a partner. It could be a family member. It could be a personal struggle you have. It could have to do with your energy. It could be something you're not sure what to do with. It could be, you know what, we could even talk about treatments or doctors. Or if you just need to vent, I'm here for that too, okay? All right, while I'm waiting for questions. Really sorry about this bug in my throat, guys. It's pretty distracting, isn't it? All right, so while I'm waiting for questions, one topic I know I've covered in the past that I think is worth revisiting. Say hello in 3 languages. Hola. Hi. I don't think I know how to say hi in another language. Sorry, not my forte. Languages are not my forte. In German, you'd say like hello. How do you say hi in German? I should know that because I took a little bit of German. Hallo, Hallo, hallo. There you go. Bonjour. Oh, bonjour. Are you French? One thing I've talked about in the past that I think is worth revisiting is this idea of having an energy bank. All right, kind of like your bank account, but every day you wake up with a new energy balance. And some days that energy balance is going to be really, really low. And some days it's going to feel pretty high, your energy bank, but you only have a limited amount of energy. Okay. And the amount of energy you have in your energy bank is like kind of like this much compared to like a normal person's like this much. You know what I mean? Like if a normal person has $10,000 in their bank account every day, we have like anything from like 1,000 to 100. Okay. A small fraction of what a normal person has in their energy bank on a daily basis, not French. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to learn what we need to do to increase that energy bank balance every day. Okay. And, just like living, breathing, being a human, having to go to the bathroom, needing to eat, having needs to meet, having to pay a bill here and there, like those things are out of our control and are going to take energy. Okay. And we just kind of need to know that those things are going to be happening in our lives and budget around those. So we figure out our basic energy needs, the energy we have to spend. And I know a lot of days it feels like that is more than the energy we have in our energy bank. Okay. And that's when we have to get creative about, okay, what's really necessary versus what do I feel is necessary? And that's a whole bunch of tough choices and a whole other topic for another time. But say we're looking at how our energy budget, okay, how we've been spending our energy. Where do our energy dollars go? For many of us, especially early on in the illness, a pretty big chunk of our budget is stress and hyper-focusing on our symptoms and going into those downward spirals and thinking about what if and lamenting the future and feeling really bad about everything that we've lost, okay? We're spending a lot of our tiny energy budget on stress and worry. And when you can learn how to decrease the energy budget you're spending on stress, you're going to have that much more left over to pour into your health journey. And the healing mindset does that for you. It teaches you how to save more of your energy. It's not, I want to say, people think, oh, the healing mindset will heal me. It's what I need to heal. And it's not going to cure you. Okay. The healing mindset doesn't cure you. It helps you manage your day-to-day symptoms while you're ill. And it helps you define the path of what you need to heal. Okay. Because as I've learned, I've had to heal from very severe chronic fatigue 3 times. Okay. It was my first health crash, my first health crisis. I completely healed, got my entire life back, worked full time, worked out again, had a social life, had friends, made money, had a beautiful life, and I relapsed. Okay. And I was healing from that and I relapsed again. Every time I healed, all 3 times I healed, I needed completely different things. I needed different treatments, different supplements. It took different blood work to find my issues. I worked with different doctors and health practitioners. Okay. These things aren't what I can teach you because I don't know what your journey takes. Nobody could teach me what I needed those 3 times. I had to discover that myself. And the healing mindset is what helped me discover those things. And it's what helped me save enough energy to make that tiny incremental progress towards my health day in and day out. And it's what got me to where I am today, which is working full time, have a social life, I have a beautiful life. I get to do all sorts of amazing, really fun things. I get to choose how to spend my energy every day. And my life is better than it was before I ever got ill. That's how good things are. Not to brag, but I want to give you guys hope. Okay? And I want to inspire you and motivate you to put in that effort to adopt the healing mindset and really launch into your healing journey. Because as I was talking about before, it's that hockey stick curve where like the very beginning, that graph is hardly moving, hardly going up. It doesn't look like anything's happening until you hit the hockey stick and things really take off, okay? So Lisa's been in a flare for 2 or 3 weeks. That's really, really hard. When you say a flare, so a flare sounds different than a crash. Normally I talk about crashes, energy crashes, but I know, Lisa, you have talked about having additional symptoms from just the severe chronic fatigue. There's also a lot of pain that you deal with. And that's, like, I don't know if that's your fibromyalgia or something else going on there, but it sounds like you're dealing with that too. And it's okay to vent. Like, venting is healthy. It's okay to acknowledge that we're in pain. It's okay to not be okay sometimes, all right? It seems that some people get the idea that the healing mindset means no venting, never talking about things that are bad, never admitting that we're hurting or in pain. And it's really the opposite. It's about fully acknowledging the way we feel about things. Because when we fully acknowledge how we're feeling, that's when we can really, from a place of self-love and self-care, choose how to respond to those emotions. We can say, okay, what is this emotion telling me? What does it really mean? And is it serving me? Or how can I find meaning in this emotion? And then choosing our reactions to be ones that help our healing journey instead of getting in the way of it. Hi, Negro. Oh, wow, you did that to me. I did not mean to say what that sounded like. I was reading the name, which is first name Nee, last name Grow, and that's not a very nice username to have. But you know that, don't you? Okay. All right, any new questions? I'm here. You guys have me for at least another 5 minutes. If we get some questions in and I get on a roll, it could be another 20 minutes. But that's really up to you guys. I don't know if you can hear the cat, but he is outside of the door meowing to be let in, to kick him out of the office to be able to record in here. He's pretty miserable if you can hear him. Hope is good. Yeah, I think hope is really, really critical. What I've seen happen with a lot of people who have very severe chronic fatigue, especially people who have been diagnosed with things like ME/CFS, is that when you lose hope is when things get really dark. And when things get really dark, that's when we really get lost in depression, and that's when we lose our motivation to keep going. When we lose our motivation to keep going, that's when symptoms tend to get worse. And that's also when people tend to start thinking about suicide. And I know it's a hard thing to talk about, and I hope I'm not triggering anybody. But I think it's important to be open and honest about how many of us think about that at times. When we become hopeless, when we become genuinely afraid that maybe we're going to live the rest of our lives this ill and this incapable and this limited. Very severe chronic fatigue and ME/CFS have quite a high suicide rate because people become so hopeless. So finding out how to have hope and how to hold on to hope, I think, becomes an essential skill, especially the longer you're living with this debilitating illness. And if any of you are going through that right now, or anyone who watches this later, I want you to know that there is hope. And I do care about you. And if there's any thoughts you're having like that, please get help. I know how heavy and hard it can feel, but it's not the way out. It's not. You are worthy of a healthy, vibrant life again. And it's not going to be handed to you. It is going to be work. And I know you're already so tired. But it's worth it. I have one other video where I talk about that. And the reason I feel it's so important to occasionally address that taboo topic is because I watched the documentary Unrest, which, if you haven't heard of it, it's a phenomenal documentary created by someone who is living with ME/CFS. And she chronicles her own life and her own struggles, as well as the lives of a few other people with very severe ME/CFS, people who have been housebound for years and years, okay? And towards the end of the documentary, her name's Jen Brea, Brea. She has video of herself just crying about how hopeless she feels and how some days it feels like an accomplishment not to kill herself. And when I watched that, I mean, I related to it so deeply. But I also found it brave for her to address this topic because we're not supposed to talk about it. But it's a real part of this illness when you've been living with it for a long time. And I found that her admitting what she was going through and calling herself, basically having pride in not doing it gave me more strength. So my hope is that by talking about it and sharing those stories, it gives someone else a little more strength to keep going too. Okay? Okay, Lisa said her flare kind of sounds like it is a crash too. It's a flare in symptoms, migraines, muscle spasms. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. That must feel awful. Breathing, I had a lot of that too, the tachycardia, brain fog, tired. Yeah, too hot, too cold, barely walk up the stairs. I know. And that must be so hard because, Lisa, I know recently that you'd really felt like you were on an upswing. You've been going for more walks. I think you said you were gardening, went for a ride on your motorcycle. And it's having these down days is even harder after the good days, I know. But I think, as always, I think there's a lesson in here. I know anytime I had a crash, it was always about looking back and saying, okay, what did I do before this? What caused it? And sometimes I couldn't find any causes. Sometimes it just seemed truly random. But a lot of the time, I could look back and say, oh, I did too much. I got too eager to pretend like I'm better. Does that make sense? Being too eager to pretend like I'm better. Like, I know that I'm still ill and I know that I don't really have this energy yet, but when I feel that it's there, I want to go for it. And this kind of relates back to the last video where I was talking about like that tired but wired feeling, like you have all this wired energy, even though you're exhausted. It's not real energy. Okay. And using it is going to lead to a crash almost inevitably. And it's kind of like these good days we have, even if it's not wired energy, even if it feels genuine, we know we're not really healed yet. Okay. It takes weeks and months of having energy like that to really have any confidence that it's more of a permanent upswing. And in the meantime, we need to continue conserving, and we need to continue limiting ourselves voluntarily, because continuing those habits is what is going to get us where we want to be, as hard as it is. Hi, Jim Smith. Yeah, Lisa, Jen Brea, she did get surgery that seems to be curing her ME/CFS, and that's causing a lot of contention in the community. You know, like Jen Brea has done so much for the community and continues to do so much through her ME Action nonprofit foundation. But she also got pretty viciously attacked by some people for publicly talking about the surgery curing her. You know, there seems to be a lot of anger around the fact that she got better in something of a unique way. Like, clearly what is healing her is not what every person with ME/CFS needs to heal, okay? Even though she was fully diagnosed with it. And there are people who said that by sharing how she healed, she's discrediting people who haven't healed yet. Or there are people who want to say that, well, you never really had it then if you're getting better, because there's no cure. When she did have it, she was fully diagnosed, just like they were. And it's a really dark side of our community where people can't heal. People aren't allowed to heal without getting viciously attacked and doubted and undermined and told to stay quiet. So I personally am really happy that Jen Brea found what she needed. Like, from my point of view, we all should be looking for what we need. And Jen Brea continued to do that. And she eventually found it. And look where she's at. And in my own journey, I kept looking for what I needed. And eventually I found it. And look where I'm at. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fast. It's not prescriptive. But it's possible. We just have to keep looking. And we have to have the right mindset shaping how we look, okay? This was 2 years ago. I actually got to meet Jen Brea. She's completely my hero. It's one of the coolest moments of my life to get to look her in the eye. She's sitting in her wheelchair and shake her hand and tell her that she's my hero, and I admire what she's done, even while living with very severe ME/CFS. She's a beautiful person in person, just like she shows up online and in her writing and everywhere else. This is at like a debut screening of Unrest in New York City. And I got to go to this debut because I had made a significant contribution to her Kickstarter for the documentary. So she's definitely a person who holds a really special place in my heart always. And she's been a person who's inspired me to share as much as I have about my journey. So it's nice that you mentioned her a little bit more, because I think she's a really phenomenal human being all around, with or without her illness. Yes, you might have overdone it. If you're crashing, Lisa, you might have overdone it. I'm not making fun. It's just driving home that lesson we all need to learn over and over again. I know I had to learn it 1,000 times, okay? The real lesson here is just, next time you're feeling that good, don't forget what happened. Don't kid yourself. It's about saying, okay, I know how this feels. I know how good it feels. And I know what I do when I feel this good. I crash because I push too much. And next time you'll be in a situation to say, okay, I feel really good. And you know what? I'm just going to have energy and feel good, even if I'm not doing anything. That was a big shift for me, is learning how to just feel good without feeling the need to do something. Just enjoying the energy while it's there. And you know what? When I would do that, and I just enjoy the energy without doing things, I had more of it every day. Just a little tiny bit slowly over time, but it was part of that hockey stick curve. Learning to conserve it even when I felt like I had enough. Yes, everyone's sickness is different and it is freaking real. All right? Let's just say I believe you. Maybe nobody else in your life believes you. I believe you. I was there. I was the one people doubted. I lost friendships over it. It hurt some of my family relationships because people didn't understand and didn't believe. I believe you. Okay? All right. Well, I am going to head out. It's been real. Quick reminder, my next live is going to be next week. It's going to be next Monday at 6:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's here in the US. Make sure you convert that into your local time, and I hope to see you on Monday. Sending you guys love and health. I'm Kristin. Ciao.